Welcome everybody to Adam Bergman's Money Makers. Guys, it's happening. It is absolutely happening with Palantir. I'm telling you, I say it all the time, and I don't say this lightly. You got to open up your ears, and you got to open up your eyes. I mean, wide open. Because you got to see what's in front of you. It's not always like, oh, yeah, I could see it. It's about, well, can you connect the dots between this, and if you connect the dots, that now starts to paint a picture. It's like a coloring book. First you make your outline, and then you start adding your colors. Eventually, you got a beautiful drawing in front of you. Clear as day picture. There's an article that came out. Palantir is now, in the next couple of months, going to open up an office in Spain. Palantir currently has a subsidiary in Spain, but not an actual office. They are also ramping up hiring people in Spain. Spain also signed paperwork that says that in the next current future that they're going to be increasing their spending to match the 2% of GDP for NATO. As we know, Germany says that they will be increasing their GDP from 1.5 to 2% GDP. That's going to be part of spending for NATO. And Germany is going to have a 100 billion euro spending fund or increased spending for increasing their military. When somebody says that, you can think, okay, we're going to increase our military like mites, rockets, and helmets, and Kevlar vests. But you would not be right or wrong. You would also be right and wrong, if that makes sense. You see, yes, people win battles. People with guns and people with technology. Yes, 100%. However, as we evolve, there's a new type of war. Data war, information war, technology war, and a defensive war. So it's not all about what you will do. Sometimes it's about deterrence and what not to do, if that makes sense. And also analyzing what a potential enemy is going to be doing or is not doing. And based on that information, you make your plays. I believe the increased spending of Spain, the increased spending of Germany, and undoubtedly the increased spending of all NATO countries, and I'm almost positive, in my mind I am positive actually, the increased spending of all European Union nations, a lot of that increased spending will be funneling into several companies. One of those companies will undoubtedly be Palantir. Mark my words. And you're going to start seeing this not in Q1 results, but probably in late Q2, which means it's going to maybe overflow to Q3 and Q4 of this year. So Q3, Q4, and possibly Q1 of 2023, I believe we will have a huge influx of international government contracts. I also believe that we will have a larger spending than we did last quarter of national, so American government contracts. Why is this important? First of all, we welcome extra spending, right? We want that for Palantir. However, it's very important because all of this increased spending is going towards a department or a wing, government contracts, that we were lacking on. And we were severely lacking in international government contracts and commercial, but let's just talk about government. One thing that CATHIE Wood of ARK Invest, they made a video yesterday if you missed it. She sold over 37 million shares of Palantir. And one of the things they said is we have a concern for non-growing government contracts. Whatever, I debunked that, but they have their own plays. I have my own plays. I predict that once you see Q3, Q4, possibly Q1 of 2023, an increase in international government contracts, specifically international government contracts, I believe that the world is going to ramp up. That spending is not going to go away. And then you're going to have companies like, or ETFs like CATHIE Wood's ARK Invests are going to dump money into Palantir. Again, that's my own personal prediction. What's actually going to happen, I honestly don't know. All investing is risky. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just an entertainer, educator at best. However, you can't deny connecting these dots. And you can't, deny what's happening in the world. The world changed, specifically Europe. Usually what happens is the person furthest away, America, prospers the most. So America is going to have an influx of a lot of business because as people move away from Russia and the East, they're going to now come towards the West. So a lot of Western companies are definitely going to prosper from this. One of those Western companies is undoubtedly going to be Palantir. Why? Palantir's technology, listen to what I'm going to say. Palantir's technology, their AI data analytics, can and will predict certain movements that will preemptively tell you what's about to happen. Also, just think about this. Let's just think about this outside the box. You ready? The United States knew that Russia was going to attack Ukraine for over a year. They've been supplying Ukraine. You see all those cool Ukrainian helmets and Ukrainian javelin missiles and Ukrainian uniforms. They have top-of-the-line technology. Also, if you listen to some of the interviews, the Ukrainian Air Force, they're saying, hey, 3 of our jets are taking on 25 Russian jets, and we're using new technology, new formations that we were taught by America, and Russia has no idea how to do this, techniques. America was preparing for this for a year or so. How do you think America knows about this? Just think about it. How do you think America knows that Russia was going to attack Ukraine? Obviously, there's operatives on the ground. Obviously, I'm not going to take that away. However, there's also certain movements and certain data points, distant data points. So data point here, data point here, data point here, da-da-da. And all these data points individually don't mean anything. But all these data points put together means an invasion of Ukraine, for example. Well, I believe, and I think we're going to see this in the future, maybe not next year, maybe not in 2 years, but eventually we will find this out, that Palantir was one of the main reasons why America knew that Russia was going to attack Ukraine. How? Based on certain mobilization. Yeah, I know I was going to say, well, Adam, Russia brought their army on the border of Ukraine. I'm talking about before that. So before the obvious mobilization, there's the not so obvious mobilization and data processing of this mobilization. And that is exactly what Palantir does. If you saw my video about Meta Constellation, Palantir literally has hundreds of satellites in space, and they communicate with the ground based on a lot of different movements and a lot of different things. And Palantir does not send raw data. Palantir already perceives and interprets what you need the data for, and already gives you an answer based on the data that they have. And they're already processing the data for you. So I truly believe, based on Palantir's technology, that's how the United States started helping out Ukraine. That's how they started mobilizing Ukraine for the attack of Russia. That's how they fortified Ukraine. That's why Ukraine has such amazing supplies. And that's how Ukraine, I'm not taking anything away from Ukraine. Shout out to Ukraine. These soldiers are straight up awesome. But they are superbly better equipped than Russia. Why? They had advanced notice and advanced timing to prepare. I also believe Russia underestimated that and didn't realize that they were preparing for so long, because Russia does not use technology like Palantir. Palantir for the win. Palantir is a monster. And again, if you connect the dots and you make sense of things, you can see what's going to happen. There is going to be an influx of money into Palantir. They are going to fortify the one thing that they, that is perceived as weak by a lot of these institutional investors, which is now the government contracts, which is funny because 6 months ago, the government contracts was the shit and everything else was perceived weak. Now, government contracts is weak and everything else is the shit. Isn't that crazy? The point is, we're going to grow our commercial, which we've been doing, and now we're going to come back hard, strong with government. But not only national government contracts, international government contracts. And that's very, very important. I also believe there's going to be an influx of commercial clients, but for the main part, government contracts, and that's what we want to see grow. And if we grow our government contracts, specifically our international government contracts, then we're going to get a huge upgrade by a lot of analysts. Listen to what I just said. We will get a huge upgrade by many different analysts, and all of a sudden people are going to say, yeah, Palantir, we were wrong. Palantir is the best, blah, 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 blah. But you haven't been watching the Adam Bergman show, and that's why, you know, you're not up on the current news, because you guys are only looking at numbers, and you're not using your brains to see and hear and process. And no, I don't need a Palantir platform to process the data that I'm processing, because it's clear as day, as I see this hand in front of me, that Palantir is the shit. Palantir is moving us to the future. Palantir is both offensive, defensive, government, and commercial, both national and abroad. Thank you so much. Give me the like, shares, and subscribe. Let's go Palantir.